everyone, this is Kim and I'd like to share with you the Craftology Box for May 2019. This is through Country Craft Creations, and if you are not a member of the Facebook page, it is Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. The Craftology Box for this month had the Simple Stories Vintage Botanicals paper. It is beautiful and very feminine and springy. So let me show you what I made, and there will be a cutting guide available so that if you would like to make this. The Craftology Box will come with the Graphic 45 box. It comes with the paper and the ribbon and the chipboard and some stickers, some regular chipboard, not just the chipboard stickers. So anyway, let me walk you through my project and see what you can make. So you'll notice that I have some of the chipboard stickers on the front, and I do have some of the flowers. This is the pink and white gingham ribbon that came with it. You can see that at the bottom. And here's some seam binding, and I have a butterfly tucked in here in the flowers from the chipboard collection. The box is a 5x7. And you'll notice I do have some sequins. I did mine as a shaker. That is optional. It does not come with sequins, but I had some in my stash, so you could just make this a picture frame and put a picture in it if you would like. When you untie the gingham ribbon, it does open so that you can place pictures. So that would be good for 2 4x6 pictures, or if you cut down 5x7s a little bit. This box, the top was heavy enough that I did not need to include a closure on the side. It does stay down real nicely. So when you open the box, on the left hand side there is an accordion pocket. It stays closed with this seam binding ribbon, and you can store some things in it because there is some depth to it. And once I made this pocket, I decided, you know what, I could use a lot of those pockets to store things, whether it's pictures, ephemera, letters, anything. So I ended up making several of these accordion pockets to go on the inside of the box also. I may need to trim this ribbon a little bit, but I do have some of the stickers mounted on the artisan cardstock to put in the spine here. The box comes with 3 graphic 45 tags. If you don't have the die, I do have the die, but I didn't know if a lot of people would. So I just cut my paper and rounded the corners. So this could be for a picture on the back, for writing and journaling, but it does come with 3 tags. And I just used some of my scrap paper on the back of them. Okay. And then those just sit on top. Now if you don't want the tag separate, if you don't have the ring in it, they do fit. You could put 1 tag per accordion pocket too. So it's up to you and what you use it for, but I liked having the tags separate on top and having the ribbon at the top, and then being able to take that out and have these individual pockets, but the tags do fit inside. So I just made 3 additional accordion pockets. You just open them up, and like I said, they do have some depth to them, so that it will hold quite a bit. I added chipboard pieces and some of the seam binding. The second one here has some of the chipboard pieces and the seam binding bow up in the corner. The paper's beautiful, and then the back has the butterfly paper. And then finally the third pocket here says live, and then on the inside, your best life. And there is paper on the back. And then on the inside, I did just make a little pocket with some of the leftover paper and put some of the cut aparts in there to hold. But if you don't have those in there, there is a paper that has a saying, it's a good day for a good day. I feel like the autofocus is on, but it shouldn't be. So anyway, that's my project for the Craftology Box for May 2019. I would suggest that you go over to countrycraftcreations.com and take a look at the Craftology box and purchase. It is limited edition, and so this cutting guide will be available for you. And if you would like to watch the tutorial that is following. So thanks so much for watching and coming to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so, because I'll continue to do tutorials. And I'm wishing all of you a happy day. Thanks. The Craftology box for May has the Simple Stories paper in it. This is called Vintage Botanicals, and it comes with several different pieces. You're going to get a 6x8 pad that I used mainly for the box. I pretty much used every piece of the 6x8 for the box that this tutorial is for. Along with the 6x8 paper, you're going to get the Simple Stories solids. Well, it's not really a solid because there's a little bit of a pattern, but it has some colors that matched. And then the chipboard stickers. It comes with regular stickers, also comes with the Flowers by Prima, and the box itself will come with the kit, and that is the Graphic 45 box. It's a 5x7. There's some seam binding and some pink-white gingham type ribbon, but the box is real sturdy. If you haven't used a Graphic 45 box before, they're really nicely constructed, and they do come in different colors, but this is like the linen or cream colored. So for this project, I'm going to have a cutting guide, so you can refer to that so you know what sizes to cut your paper. I give both the solid color, and I mean the just the non-pattern paper, and then I'll give the dimensions for the pattern paper. On all of the paper, I did distress my edges with the what color? Ground Espresso Distress Oxide by Ranger. And so I did some of that off camera just to make things go a little bit faster. Inside of the Graphic 45 box, it does come with 3 tags that we're going to use. We'll decorate those at the end. So you do need to cut your paper to size, and I do like a little bit of a border on my solid, but not a real thick one. So as I give you the dimensions, let me find those here for you. Where did they go? Let's see. I'll find it. Where did it go? Where are my Google Docs? Sorry, hold on. There we go. Okay, so for the solid paper on the inside front cover, this is not... I gotta find what I'm looking... Oh, there it is. Here. Okay, I apologize. Okay, so for the solid colored paper on the inside front cover, it measured 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. And then I did ink the edges. And then for the pattern paper that you're going to put on the inside front cover, that's going to be 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. Go ahead and ink those edges. So I put the solid color down first and burnished it real well to make sure that it didn't have any... Always make sure the corners are real good so it doesn't lift. And then I chose this rose colored paper with some print on there, inked the edges, and now I'll adhere this to the inside front cover. And that again measured 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. You can use the art glitter glue if you prefer ATG or score tape, whichever you like. I pretty much use the art glitter glue for everything. And just center that, and you'll see that there's just a real slight green border, but it's just enough that it makes the pattern paper really stand out. Make sure it's centered, and then we'll go ahead and burnish. Always make sure you burnish real well. So especially with the glue, you don't want there to be any ridges or ripples, but the art glitter glue is really good about not showing any ridges or ripples, so that's good. Okay, so after we do the inside front cover, let's go ahead and do the spine. And the solid color spine piece is 2 3/8 by 6 7/8. And the pattern paper, I chose a polka dot. It's going to measure 2 1/4 by 6 3/4. Ink your edges. Place the solid color down on your spine. Make sure that you line it up so it matches the inside front cover. So look at the top and the bottom to make sure that they line up with the other piece you already laid down. Make sure you don't go over the creases where the box folds. You don't want the paper to get in the way of opening and closing your box. Burnish it real well, and then go ahead and lay that pattern piece right on top of it. The pattern paper that I'm putting the glue on, the back side, I didn't use much of that in this project, and I don't know why, because I thought it was really pretty pattern paper. I have some left over. I'll have to make sure I use that in one of my next projects. Okay, and center it and burnish as always. So this video is the first time I've done a voiceover. For some reason I was having problems. I recorded everything and the audio was real staticky. I have a external microphone, or a blue snowball microphone, and it usually works really well, but must be going out on me. So this is the first time I've done this. Hopefully it works out fine. So the inside of the box, you notice that there's 2 long sides, 2 short sides. So you're going to do a solid color and a pattern piece for each of those also. For the inner long side pieces, the solid color measures 2 1/8 by 6 1/4 inches. You'll need 2 of those. And then the pattern paper that you're going to place on top is 2 by 6. Again, you'll need 2 of those. Ink your edges. You are going to want to put your pattern paper on your solid colored paper before you put it inside your box. It's just easier, being as you're limited in space and getting your hand in there and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just place all of the pattern paper on top of the solids. Now this particular box, when I made it, I had some paper pre-cut for some reason, and it was just a hair shorter than what I wanted it to be, but because it was on the inside of the box, you will never notice. So you see a little bit more of the green on the edges, not the top and bottom, but the sides, but you won't notice it once it's in the box. So I want to make sure I utilize my paper well. Okay, and then I got to do the other long piece. Now before we place the long pieces inside of the box, we are going to put the bottom down first. It's just easier that way. So even though I'm preparing the sides, I won't put them in until after I do the bottom. So go ahead and center that onto your solid color. And I have my favorite burnishing tool. It's Teflon. It's a square. I use it all the time. Okay, so we have the 2 longer sides done. Now we need to do the 2 shorter sides for the inside of the box. Now the inside pieces do measure differently than the outside. The outside's just a hair bigger, so these dimensions are just for the inside. So the solid color paper for the inside short ends are 2 1/8 by 4 1/4. You'll need 2 of those. And the pattern paper that you place on top of that is 2 by 4 1/8. You'll need 2 of those. Ink your edges, place the pattern paper on your solid paper, center it, and burnish. And then we'll move those to the side and start on the bottom here in just a moment. Making sure those edges are down real well. So the paper I chose for the inside of the box I thought was perfect because it had a little bit of each of the colors in the collection. It had the pink, a little bit darker pink, it had the green, the blue, and so I thought it was good to put on the inside so all the colors in the collection matched that. You'll notice on the inside front cover, it's just basically that rose colored, so this really will tie in all of the colors in the collection. So now that I have the sides done, I am going to work on the inside bottom of the box. And just as I have done with the other pieces, I'm going to start with the solid color And then I am going to mat or put a pattern piece on top. And I chose one that said good day for, it's a good day for a good day. So I had to cut it just right so that the whole saying would show up. I loved the paper, and when I cut it out to fit the bottom of the box, a lot of the real pretty pattern paper came off. And so I decided to add a bottom pocket so you could store small pictures or ephemera or some of the cut aparts. And then you could see some of that real pretty paper. So for the bottom of the box, the solid colored piece measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And I chose that green color. Again, all the matting on the inside's green. All the matting on the outside is darker rose colored. The pattern piece of paper that says it's a good day for a good day, that measures 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. And then I just used a scrap piece of paper, but for the pocket, my measurements were 4 1/8 by 1 3/4. So you can change that as you like. Just put adhesive on 3 sides for your pocket. When you place it on your paper, obviously you need it open on the top. And then you can go ahead and put glue on the decorative pattern piece and place it on your green paper. Center it. Like so. And burnish. And then we'll glue that down before we put the sides on. All right, now you will see a little bit of the box bottom. I did want a little bit of a border, so I think the more color around the edges, the better the pattern paper stands out. So it is a little bit shorter than the box, obviously. So go ahead and put your adhesive on, and then you're going to lay it down in the bottom, center it, and once again burnish. These boxes are really fast and easy, so if you need a gift with short notice, you get a lot of bang for your buck with these. You can put them together pretty quickly and they turn out really pretty. So I think start to finish, it probably took a couple hours by the time you cut paper and ink it and all that kind of stuff, but it still goes pretty fast. Definitely in a day you can get one done. All right, so once we have the bottom down now, we'll go ahead and place the shorter sides and the longer side pieces in. Okay. Now eventually, once I put the pattern paper on the inside, I did look through the sticker collection and found a couple stickers that I thought looked good on that. I didn't put a whole lot of stickers on the inside of the box just because you don't see them that much. But I placed a butterfly on one side and a saying just to use up the stuff, and it really did look pretty, just real subtle. Okay. Okay, so I had to stop there for a second. I had a phone call, so I'm going to go ahead and just finish putting in that paper on the inside of the box. And just make sure that when you're putting it down that you check the top of the box to make sure all your paper lines up. It's better to have it line up at the top rather than the bottom because I think that's what you see more. And then make sure that you get it really good in the corners so it doesn't lift. One last piece and then we'll move to the outside. Okay. And again, line it up, double check that all your top of the box, they all have the same amount of border, that they're straight. and go ahead and burnish. Okay, so that's what the inside looks like, and you can put your ephemera, whatever, inside that pocket. So look through your paper to see if you want to use the same papers that I used or if there's something different you want, but I wanted to make sure that I put aside the ephemera cards. I didn't want to cut into those. I wanted to use those in the pocket and on my tags. And then I went through and I looked to see what I wanted for my frame on the front cover and set those aside. So let's move to the spine on the outside of the box. Remember, the measurements for the outside are a little bit different than the inside. And let's see, what is the measurement? The measurement, yeah, you can see a little bit more of the cream color on the outer spine, and that's because I already had a piece that was out and I didn't want to waste it. So it didn't bother me that I could see a little bit more of the border. So the spine piece should actually measure for the solid color 2 1/4 by 6 7/8. And then the pattern paper would be 2 1/8 by 6 3/4. Now the paper I selected, it's one of my favorites from the collection, and I wanted to make sure I got plenty of the design. So there's flowers and butterflies. It's one of my favorites. I think it's really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and place the pattern paper on the rose colored solid. And like I said, all the solid colored paper I used on the outside was the dark rose color. Go ahead and center that after you have inked your edges. Now you might want to see what it looks like instead of using like the ground espresso or a brownish like vintage photo or something. You might want to try and see what it looks like with a pink color or even a what do they call that? The paper, the aged paper or something like that. It's kind of got a green color to it. And so that might be a pretty way to ink your edges too. So then just put glue and adhere it. Make sure you center it on your spine. A lot of times when I make a box or even an album, I like to add some sort of lace or applique on the, going from the spine, wrapping it around to the front of the book. So that might be an option if you want to do that, if you have something in your stash that you can add to it. I didn't do it on this one, obviously, because we have the front frame that might get in the way. But you might want to add some appliques or something to your spine. If you have some crystals in your stash, you might want to add some, like a crystal spiral underneath the butterfly. I might have to check to see if I have some and add that. So we're going to move to the bottom of the box. The bottom and the top obviously measure the same. So you can cut both pieces at the same time if you want, or you can do one and then the other. But for the solid color, you need 2 pieces that are 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. So that's one for the top and one for the bottom. And then for the pattern paper, you're going to need 2 that measure 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And again, that's one for the top and one for the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom first. I'll go ahead and attach the pattern paper to the solid before I add it to the bottom of the box. Another thing you might want to consider is if you want your box to lay flat when you set it down, or if you want it to have some sort of feet on the bottom. I know that Tammy has some in her store. I don't know if they're graphic. I think they're graphic 45, but I'm not 100% sure. If you have a certain, like a flat back, a real large flat back pearl or something, you could have 4 of those on the bottom. I've done that before if you want it to have some sort of feet and not sit all the way flat on the table. For my box though, I just left it. I didn't add anything. So then I went ahead and centered that and put that on the bottom. Now some people choose not to put paper on the bottom. I like that finished look. If you're running short on paper, that could be a place where you cut back. But I always usually like to have a finished look and put paper on the bottom too. So we'll just place that on the bottom and center it. And I chose the paper that's on the bottom. It's going to match the frame that I have on the top. So I thought that was a good way to carry it over. And we don't want any lifting on the corners. Want it to lay flat, so burnish. The art glitter glue, even if it seeps out a little bit, dries clear, but you want to try and wipe off the excess. Okay, so now it's time to do the front. Again, you already have your paper cut if you did it the same when you did the bottom piece. Just as a reminder, the solid is 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and the pattern is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. These measurements are all typed up for you on a cutting guide. And we're going to go ahead and put the glue around the edges, fill it in on the inside. Okay, now a lot of this paper you're not going to see. Once we put the frame on, it'll cover most of it, but you'll be able to see a little bit of it peeking out. So it's still important that you, I think, still add the pattern paper on top of the solid. I like to see it. I picked a green polka dot. It's green with a cream colored polka dot for my pattern paper. And even though, like I said, you don't see much, you do see a little bit of it on the edges. So all right. It's not as important that you glue the pattern paper onto the solid before you place it onto the box. Being as it's on the front, it's not hard to do. So you'll be using a chipboard frame, whether you choose to use it as a picture frame or as a shaker. So you kind of want to have an idea of what paper you're using. You'll notice I picked a pattern paper that had some butterflies and then it said hello at the bottom. And then I used a stripe for the frame. So let's go ahead and glue that down. Like so. Flatten it, burnish. So we also need to do the outside edges of the box. Those, remember, measure a little bit differently than the inside did. So that's what's coming up next. So we have 2 short sides and 2 long sides again. For the outer parts of the box, the long side solid colored paper, you're going to need 2 that measure 2 1/4 by 6 1/2. And the pattern paper that you're going to place on top is 2 1/8 by 6 3/8. You're going to want to ink your edges. The shorter sides then measure 2 1/4 by 4 1/2 for the solid color. And for the pattern paper, 2 1/8 by 4 3/8. Ink those. And then go ahead and glue your pattern paper on top of the glue the pattern paper on top of the solid. Okay, so let's see here. So now it's time to look at the chipboard frame. You are going to need to cut a piece of chipboard. If you do not, I happen to have a frame in my stash, so I didn't have to cut it. But for you, if you need to cut it out, the frame measures, let me get the correct measurements. The chipboard is 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, and then the inside cutout is 3 by 4 1/2. So 3 inches wide by 4 1/2 long. So you'll just want to use a pencil and trace that opening, and then use a box cutter to cut out the inside center. Now, if you want, you can add the acetate if you're using it as a frame. You'll definitely need acetate if you're using it as a shaker card. And I happen to have some acetate from long time ago when we had overhead projectors, so I already had some on hand, but you're just going to want to cut it a little bit bigger than the opening. We're going to end up gluing or taping that to the back of the chipboard frame. So that chipboard frame is actually going to be on a flap so that we can put some pictures inside. So you're going to need two pieces that you're going to glue together to make that flap. And so the two pieces, one of them measures 4.5 by 6.5, and when you're going to want to use cardstock for that. And then the second piece is 4.5 by 7. Again, you're going to want to use cardstock. So the piece that's 4.5 by 7, you're going to want to put that in your scoreboard so that the 7-inch side is across the top, and just score it 1/2 inch. Burnish the 1/2 inch and then place glue on that 1/2. So again, the piece that measured 4.5 by 7, you put the 7-inch side in your scoreboard and scored it 1/2. You burnish that 1/2 inch piece, and then we're going to place glue on it, and then we'll place that 4.5 by 6.5 inch piece on top. And that's how your flap is formed. So just make sure you line it up so you don't have any overhang of paper anywhere. You want it to line up real nice. So I usually stand mine up just to make sure that it's equal and level. And then once you're happy with how it lines up, go ahead and burnish it. All right. So there's the flap. So then next, you're going to decide what pattern paper you want on the front. And the pattern paper that I chose is the butterflies with the word hello. And let's see here. What am I doing here next? I don't remember. Let's see. Okay, there's that paper. So you want to cut that 4.5 by 6.5, or maybe a hair shorter. That's going to rest on top of the flap. So you might want to go 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. That's not true. 3/8. 4 3/8 by 6 3/8. And then you're going to end up gluing that on top of that flap. Okay. I had to make sure that I cut mine just right so that in the opening I could see the butterflies and the word hello. All right. You don't have to ink your edges on this one. You won't see them anyway. So once you cut it, you can just glue it down onto your flap. Make sure if your paper's directional that you're putting it on right so that when you open it, you have the opening at the bottom. I turned mine around just to make sure it was lined up, and I turned it back. And before I pressed down too much, I just wanted to make sure I had it centered right. Looks like I'm a little bit out of frame. There we go. All right. So still looks like I got it on there right. That's good. So we also need to add ribbon for our closure so that the flap doesn't open when we open our box. So we'll be doing that here in a second. Let's go ahead and mat the inside. There are 2 solid colored pieces that you're going to need. The solid colors measure 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. You'll need 2 of those, one for the top and one for the bottom. You don't need any paper for the back side because that's going to be glued to the box. So the solids again, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And then the pattern paper, I made it 1/4 of an inch smaller instead of 1/8. I wanted to see more of a border on that, so those measured 4 by 6. So 2 at 4 by 6 of the pattern paper. And then I just went ahead and applied my pattern paper on top of the solid, and then I'll glue it to the flap. I decided to go with that floral print, the busier print I put on the top. and then the more subtle print I'm putting on the bottom. I did end up finding a sticker that looked really good on the inside flap. So once you have the paper down, you can always go back then and see how you can add to it with your stickers. You wouldn't want to add chipboard though on the inside, just because it wouldn't lay nice and flat. So just go ahead and center your paper and glue it down. I thought that was really pretty paper. That's one of my other favorites. So again, this was Simple Stories. It's called Vintage Botanicals. So then the bottom, use blue for my solid, and then that pink has a real subtle butterfly pattern, and that's why a sticker looked good with it, because it wasn't such busy paper. So then I'm gluing that down. Okay. Make sure you center it before you push it down real good. And glue it down. A little bit coming off there, but it dries clear. I used to use dry baby wipes, still haven't found one that doesn't have a ton of lint, so I'm kind of stuck right now as to what I should use to wipe up excess glue. I do have a piece of an old white, real thin towel that I've been using, but I need to find a wet wipe that doesn't have lint. So if you have an idea, drop me a note in the comment box, please, because I've been on a hunt. All right, so now we have the flap pretty much ready. We are going to now, there are two pieces of ribbon we're going to attach. I chose to attach my ribbon on the bottom of the flap where we did not add paper. And then I'm also going to add one underneath the chipboard frame. So I'm going to place it on the decorative paper. And you want to make sure that when you lay it down that you do not put so much down on the paper that you can see it through the frame. So just about 1/4 of an inch glue down. And I made my ribbon probably about 12 inches long. It's better to have it too long than too short. So I used the pink and white gingham. Again, two pieces that are about 12 inches long. I use the art glitter glue to adhere it. So I think I show that I glued the front one on, but I don't know that I showed that I also glued the bottom piece on. So make sure that you're gluing one on top of the flap and one on the bottom, and that they line up, one on top of the other, so that when you tie it, it looks nice. So when I put that down, I'm going to place the frame on top just to make sure I don't see any ribbon poking through, so I know how much to glue down. Okay. And then also I did it on the bottom of the flap. Okay. And you can always trim it later. All right, so let's take a look at the actual frame now. We need to cover it with our pattern paper. So let me go ahead and get things prepped here. So I chose the stripe. So this is the 6x8 paper. I did not trim it or shorten it at all. It's okay that it's not, that some sides have more than others. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up centering your chipboard piece on the paper. And we're going to place glue on the chipboard so to prevent any slipping. And we'll do it just like it was a regular cover. We're going to miter corners. We're going to be wrapping that chipboard. And so we'll get that ready here. I'll walk you through the steps. Before I was like, how do I get that inside piece covered? But it's really easy. So don't be afraid to use a little bit of glue here on the chipboard. We don't want any movement all the way around the edges here. Place it in the center and press down. Now, there's two different ways you can miter your corners. You can, well, there's probably more than that, but you can cut it at an angle, making sure that you leave a little bit of you don't go right up to the corner of the chipboard, because you want to cover the chipboard. You don't want anything to poke through. I have a tool that helps me to do that so that I leave enough of a border on the paper. I've had a lot of people ask. I got that from an Etsy shop from someone. I just wish it was a hair longer. Sometimes it's not quite big enough, but anyway, it helps me as a guide. Tammy likes to do a squared corner, and she has really good luck with that, and the chipboard never shows through the paper, so it's whatever works for you. I like the look of the angled. Okay. Get rid of those corner scraps. We are going to cut a slit from one corner diagonally down to the opposite corner on the inside of the frame. So go right up to the corner and then down to the other corner. You don't need to leave a space on this one. You want to go right to the corner. So it looks like an X when we're done. Okay. Just make sure that cut it all the way through, and you can see here it looks like an X, and that's what it should look like. So we're going to wrap it around. We'll just pull it around the chipboard. You'll notice it's too long, and that's okay. We'll trim that off. It doesn't have to be inked. It doesn't have to be cut straight. We just want to make sure that it goes around to the chipboard like so, and that we get it real tight around the chipboard so it lays nice and flat. I did use art glitter glue. Press down. I usually pull it over the chipboard, and I go from the center out to press it down. So then you're going to do the same thing on the opposite end. When you wrap it around the chipboard, you'll have some excess paper that you're going to want to trim. And then you'll just use your art glitter glue to cut it, or to lay it down. If you prefer score tape, you can do that too. So let's see. I think I had to go back and clip the corner a little bit on that one. All right, add your glue. I like to place a bead of glue along the chipboard too, just so that the paper lays real flat and nice. Has a real crisp corner. Press it down. Like so. Okay. And then we'll do the long sides the same way. When you wrap it around the chipboard, you'll have to trim that also. So I just kind of fold it over and flatten it. See how nice it's going to look though? It looks real crisp. Trim that up. Glue it down. Again, put a bead right up against the chipboard so that the paper lays on it real flat and nice. And then wrap it over. Burnish it down. And do the last side. And then we'll move to the outside of the frame. Fold it, cut it, glue it, score it, burnish it. Okay. All right, now sometimes, a lot of times when I cover my chipboard, I do use score tape, but for this frame, I just chose to use the glue and thought it worked real well. And on the outside, I'm going to go ahead and I take the chipboard and just stand it up and fold that paper over it so it has a natural burnishing line or score line. And I do that to all four sides. just to kind of train the paper as to where it needs to fold. I put that glue bead up against the chipboard. This is where I would normally use score tape, but this worked just fine. And I'm going to do the same thing on all 4 sides. Just go ahead and wrap it over. I kind of press in the middle and then out towards the sides to make sure it lays down flat. And then I go ahead and use my burnishing tool to finish it up. But I have better luck when I start to flatten it down from the center and out. Okay. Putting the glue on. And once you do this once, it's real easy to remember how to do it for the next one. I use a lot of chipboard frames and cover them now. I just think I think it looks nice and sharp and adds a lot to a project. So then I usually take my burnishing tool and go along the outside edges also, just to make sure that the paper is real flat. So on the short ends now we're going to tuck in those corners. There's a little bit of excess paper, and so you tuck them in, and that way the chipboard is covered. You don't see any of that coming through. And once again towards the center and then out. Get the corners real well. Let's go ahead and do the last corner. We got to tuck in those corner pieces on this end also. And that'll give us a nice crisp corner. Chipboard won't show. And our frame is about complete. So after we've done this part now, we'll go ahead and add our acetate. If you're not doing a shaker card, if you're just doing a frame and you don't feel like you need the acetate, you can skip that part. If you're not doing a shaker and you're putting this on your front cover, as you will only glue it on 3 sides on your front cover instead of all 4. Okay, so that's what it'll look like. Clean up a little bit and then we'll move on to the next step here. So we're going to put a piece of score tape around the outside, right around the edge of the frame on the cutout part, so that we can adhere our acetate to it. And when I place that score tape on my frame, I go right along the edge of the opening. I don't go out towards the outside, I keep it more towards the inside, if that makes sense. So I'm using 1/4 inch score tape and placing it right up against the edge here. Now you don't want to use glue for this part because the acetate won't stick to the art glitter glue, so score tape is your best bet for this part. And do it on all 4 sides. So the acetate, you're going to want to cut a little bit larger than your opening, and so that it will rest on that score tape. The acetate that I'm using has a white tissue piece on it to prevent it from getting all smeared and fingerprinted up. So when I lay it down, I leave that tissue on there so that I don't get my fingerprints on. So I'm just going to take off the backing of the score tape and then lay the acetate on top. Make sure it lays down real flat. Taking the backing off. All right, so let's get that acetate. So obviously my tissue is on the outside facing up towards me, and then I can use that to press down on without getting it all smeared. And then when I remove it or take it off, I just kind of use that tissue again to help push it down along the edge of the frame. And there you'll be able to see a little bit of a shine there, so you can see that the acetate's on there, like so. And that's what it's going to look like. And of course we'll add some flowers and stuff to our frame when we're done. So because this is a shaker, I'm going to need some dimension. I'm going to need a little bit of a space between the flap and my frame. And so I had some like foam type stuff that I thought would be perfect, and I cut it, and then when I went and put the frame on it, it was way too thick. I didn't like the way it looked, so I had to go with the plan B. Now if you have some sort of foam tape, that would work. This particular foam though was just, it raised the frame too high, and I don't put that many sequins in, so I didn't need it lifted up that much. So I went to plan B, and my plan B was to use chipboard. Okay, so with the chipboard I just cut about 1/4 to 1/2 inch pieces, and then I laid them out around the edge of my picture. And when you cut them, you want to make sure that the corners meet, so you don't want any opening between your chipboard, or else the sequins will fall through. So I was just double checking here to make sure that I had them laid out in the right spot. I don't want to see the chipboard through the opening. And then I just go one at a time and glue them down. Now the chipboard works good with the art glitter glue. And then again, make sure your corners of the chipboard really touch and don't have any openings. So I laid the bottom piece down, and then when I put the sides down, I do the bottom, the two sides, and then the top. And you'll notice how I place that so that the corners overlap. You might have your own technique for shaker cards, so if you have something that you use that works well, go for it. I was just using them what I had on hand and what worked best for me. Sometimes I use, usually I use the foam, but if you're using chipboard, sometimes you might want to double the layers and do 2 pieces on top of each other, so that makes it a little bit more of a gap, so you can fill in with more sequins. But for this one, didn't need that much. So that last piece, I cut it so tight, I'm gonna have to really push it down in between the 2 sides, and that's good. That'll keep those sequins inside. And just lay that down. Like so, and I'm going to push down that corner real well. Like so. Now before you place your frame on top, you want to find your sequins. I like using different sizes, different colors. You don't just have to use sequins, you can use seed beads, you can use flat back pearls, you can use cutouts from the collection, just whatever you have on hand and looks good, I guess. So I use some like crystal color, like clear. I had some butterfly confetti that matched, and so I glue some pieces down of the confetti and the sequins so that when the box is standing upright and all the sequins fall to the bottom, you can still see some. So that might be something you want to do too. Just glue a couple pieces down. So I glued all 3 of the butterflies and then just a couple pieces of the sequins. I ended up using some pinks and blues. Like I said, the crystal ones. I put in a few white, but they were different sizes. And I didn't use a ton this time. I thought the picture was pretty enough. It didn't need a whole lot. Then as I glue these down, they like to stick to my finger. You hardly need any glue at all, just a little drop. And now it's time for pink. That pink has a mixture of some darker and lighter colored ones. And we'll just space those out here and there. They keep sticking. Okay. I think I end up gluing the 3 butterflies and maybe like 3 or 4 of each color before I put in the rest. And of course, when I put those on, they go all over the place. There's a thing you can use, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I've seen people use it where they, it's some sort of cloth or something that they rub on the acetate so that there's no static. Ouch. There's the, I don't have enough, I don't think that I have enough of the sequins and to make, that won't be a problem in this project. I don't think that static will be an issue, but they do make something, I just don't know what it is, that you can use. So now it's time to find the right amount of sequins that I want in here. I also have some real small ones, so I decided to use white, or they're like a, oh, what do you call that? Some are white and some are like that shiny pearlized type color. And then after you get the sequins in, you're going to want to put your frame on. And so we're going to place art glitter glue on the chipboard, and don't be afraid to use plenty. You don't want any loose spots so that sequins come out. So I made sure I covered it real well on all 4 sides. I also think it's better to use the glue rather than score tape on this part too. I know that in the past when I've used score tape, a lot of times, you know, the score tape stays sticky whereas the glue dries. And so sometimes those sequins stick to the score tape and then they don't shake around as much. So I think glue's best. And then you just want to center your frame on there and press down real good so that everything's adhered real nice. Like so. And we are almost done. We have just a few more things to work on, but it's going by pretty quick here. Let's put away my mess. And let's see, what do we do next? Envelope pocket with you so you can store some things in there also. We set our shaker to the side and we're going to work on the pocket that we're going to put, the little expandable pocket that we're going to put on the inside left. So you're going to need a piece of plain cardstock. This is the artisan cardstock that I used. This paper measures 9 by 11, and we're going to start on the 9-inch side, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5. Rotate it to the other side so that you still have 9 inches across the top, and do the same score marks at 1/2, 1 inch, and 1.5. Then you're going to turn it so that it's on the 11-inch side, and you're going to score at 3.5 and 7 3/4. Okay. So with the, let's see, that's 3.5, that's 3 1/4. So with the 3 1/4 inch piece at the top and the 3 1/2 piece down at the bottom, that's how I have my paper placed. I'm going to cut off these 3 scores marks that we made on the top section. So leave the 3 down at the bottom at the 3 1/2 inch section, and let's cut across on that score line, and then we can get rid of all of this going up. And try and get it as straight as you can. You can use your paper cutter if you want. Sometimes I can't see that score mark very well. It's not very straight. Okay, and we're going to do the same over here. We're going to cut off going up. Turn it around just so it's easier. You know what? Maybe if I had my glasses on, I would be able to see the score line better. Let me try that. Yes, indeed, I can. Alright, so it should look like this. This is going to become your accordion pocket down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and do our burnishing. And I am going to round my corners. So on the end, the top here, that is going to become our flap. I'm going to go ahead and round those. Alright, so now we're going to accordion these by going in on the score line that's closest to the center here. On that, then we're going to fold out on the next score line, and then the last one we're going to go back in. And burnish. Now when you close it, you want to make sure that you don't see, I'm going to have to trim just because it doesn't line up exactly right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim so that it lines up correctly. Okay, I might have to adjust it still a little bit more, but let's go ahead and accordion this one. So the first one we're going in, then we're going to go back out, and then back in. Okay, and now fold it up to see if you have to adjust anything on the sides. And mine looks good. I don't have any overhang. Okay, so this, we want to make sure it fits nice inside of our inside cover. So let's do, and it'll look like so. And we're going to center it so that when it closes, it doesn't get in the way of this ridge, so that it keeps our box popped open a little bit. So by centering it, because if you notice, it's smaller than the center of that box. So we'll just have to make sure that we put it in a spot that it's not going to interfere with the closing. So let's go ahead and add adhesive to keep our pocket closed. So on these 1/2 inch strips, and over here, and let's just fold it up and adhere it like so. Now if you want, you could have, or you still can, punch a little half circle here if you want, so that you can easily get in and out of the pocket, but I don't think it'll be an issue because it's expandable, so you'll be able to reach in and get what you need. So now you have to decide on the pattern paper. So I don't feel like I rounded this one very well. Now we don't need to obviously do the back because that's going to be adhered to the base or the box. So for this, it's measuring 6 inches, so I'm not going to do 2 layers, I don't think. I think I'm just going to stick to the decorative, the pattern paper, and I'm going to go 5 7/8 by, let's go 3 and a, this is 3 1/2, so let's go 2, or excuse me, this is 3 1/2, so let's go 3 3/8. Again, we'll go 5 7/8 for the top by 3 inches. And you'll need 2 of those, one for the inside and one for the outside. And then you will want to put a little strip. You don't have to go all the way down if you don't want to, but we are going to need another 5 7/8 strip, and then I'll probably go 2 inches down, maybe more. Maybe I'll try and get it, maybe I'll go the full length. If I do, that would be, I probably would cut it 4 inches. Okay. So let's find the decorative paper that or the pattern paper that would look good. Off camera, I started doing my decorating, and once I started putting the paper on this pocket that's going to go on the inside front cover, I decided I wanted more of those pockets, and so I made a total of 4. And so I put that on the cutting guide just so you know. But on the inside of the box, I had put a pocket, and I just put some cut-aparts in there. Stickers here. And so now what I'm going to do is the pocket that's going to go on the inside front cover, I've already decorated it. I already cut a piece of seam binding and tied it so that I would know the back. I have added some score tape. I'm going to center it on the inside front cover. On the cutting guide, I have all the measurements for the pattern paper also. So I'm going to go ahead and in between the score tape, I'm going to go ahead and add glitter strength and then make it stick real well. Okay. And I'll go ahead and tear off the backing to the score tape. Oh, maybe push that down. Come on, get off there. Why is that not coming off? Let me go to the center. Or not. Come on. I have these. There we go. All right. See? All right. And I'm going to push this to the side so I can see it. And I'm centering it. Okay, and press down. You'll notice that on the pockets that I made, I used some of the chipboard and added that as decorative elements. On the inside, there are some stickers. So then you can untie this and store things inside. Okay. So let me tie this back up. And I can trim this later to the right length that I like. So then on the inside, the pockets that I made. I did put on the cutting guide that you'll want to cut the back of the 3 that you put inside the box, but you don't need paper on the back of the one we put on the inside front cover. And so none of these, I don't have any kind of closure because they're going to be in the box, and I'm going to have some tags sitting on top of them, so I think that they'll stay closed fine. So they're all accordion. I added, like I said, some of the chipboard pieces. Here's some of the seam binding, some stickers. Okay, so those will go on the bottom. You can put whatever you want. You can put some of your extra cut-aparts in there if you want. Pictures, ephemera, keepsakes type things. And so that closes with no interference from that pocket. I might put like a butterfly on this side too. And then I also want to do the tags. Now with the tags, they do, if you want one tag per pocket, they do fit inside if you want to put one inside. I'm going to go ahead and make them separate and set them on the top, just so that it's multifunctional. You can write on your tags, you can put pictures on your tags, and so I've already done 2 of them. And I used some solid paper on the back, and then I used a cut apart. I did round the edges, and I added a sticker, a butterfly sticker in the upper corner. On the back, I did just a strip of paper there to give it some color in the back. So the measurements are on the cutting guide, but my base paper, what did I cut that? 3 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then I used cut aparts instead of using the pattern paper. And just put these down, and it'll go fast. I did the same thing for all 3 of my tags. Now this box does end up taking the 8 pad. I used pretty much every single piece of paper in there, so you got to be careful when you have a few scraps left over, but not a lot. Now if you have the, use that instead of doing the rectangle pieces of paper with the corner rounder. Just go ahead with the die, and I love it, but I thought that some of you might not. Rounded corners on the rectangle, so you could see what it would look like. On the back then, we're just going to put a piece of solid, and when I say solid, I'm using the solids from the paper line. And center that. Go ahead and burnish it real well. And I'm going to go ahead and a decorative strip on the side. You could just glue it on 3 sides and then make it like a little pocket on the back too. Okay. And then I'm going to find a sticker. Let's see. I could all of them. So I think I'll do a pink butterfly because I have pink. And I am going to ink around the edge. And I am going to also add a little bit of glue on the back of the sticker. So this is the order I'm going to put them, and so I want to offset the butterfly. So this butterfly will go on this side. You're going to want to place your ring. And where did my ring go? There it is. And the Craftology box comes with some green seam binding and some pink and white lace. And so I'm going to do mainly, oh, that comes with yellow and pink too. So I'm going to take yellow, green, and pink seam binding to finish it off. And then that's going to sit so it holds quite a bit. And so now we just need to go back and finish the top. And so let me show you how I've decided. I have not glued this down yet. I'm going to arrange my flowers, three flower cluster in the bottom left. I have one of the chipboard pieces of a butterfly that's going to be tucked down inside of there. I have the chipboard piece that said these are the days. I did some hearts and butterflies, and again I inked around everything. So I use a glue gun to adhere my flowers, but I'll just use art glitter glue for the backs of these. So let me glue down some of these. Well, I'll just do them off camera. You don't need to see me glue, but you can arrange your chipboard pieces any way you want. So let me get these off there. So I went ahead and put my score tape on the back so that I can adhere it to the top of the box. Okay, and I do want to make sure that I get it centered, so it'll look like so. And then once those flowers are on and everything, it'll look awesome. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put art glitter glue in between the pieces of tape just to make sure it stays stuck real well. And then we're about done. It's just a matter of decorating it to the way you like it, and using the stickers are great in this paper collection. It was hard to pick which ones to use, and I'm a butterfly lover, so they are all fabulous. Butterflies and flowers. So, and there's some good sayings and hearts. So very feminine. Anything you pick will look good. And come on. And I cut my string, I think I said this earlier, too long, but I did that on purpose just to make sure. I'd rather it be too long than too short. And then I'll trim it once I have it on there. Once I tie the bow to see that it's the right length. Boy, this tape is pitching me a fit today. Alright, so let me just put some art glitter glue on here real quick. I don't put it on top of the score tape. Some people do. I don't. Okay. And I am going to have to stand to see the top of the box. All right, press down real well. Remember, this will open so that you can put pictures. I love doing that on the front of these boxes, to have a picture hidden underneath there. This will go ahead and tie to keep it closed, even though the weight would probably keep it closed anyway. Okay, so there's the box. I will do include some still pictures at the front that you've probably already seen if you're watching this video. I will do a walkthrough at the beginning of the video so you can see it. So this is super, these boxes are awesome to work with. So if you're interested, this is the Craftology box for Country Craft Creations. I believe it's going to be for May 2019. So hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I would be happy to answer those for you. So thanks for watching so much, and enjoy making this project.